or switch, but I got it. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes. And I can pick it and zoom it and make it really big too.
Okay. Let me do that too a bit. Whew. What's up, Anthony?
How's it going, bro?
It's going pretty good. How you been?
Been doing pretty good, man. Just rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
You're probably pretty tired. This is your third or fourth day on the job, man?
Yesterday was the third day. A few days ago, though, when I was watching Levi after work, the little guy had a runny nose. I think he got me sick, so I got a pretty sore throat last night and this morning, but I just been hitting the tea, drinking tea, and just trying to drink a lot of water, and it's helping a little bit. But yeah, just a little headache and like a sore throat right now, so yeah.
There's towels over there. I'm going back in here.
Yeah, I think this will lay out a little bit better when we get going here. If this first scripture, read that one that's highlighted, Clayton, and then read verse 20 also, if you don't mind.
Sure. All right. This is 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's.
Okay, and when we start to do it next time, get some from your Basora, and so we'll have it worded a little bit better, or from something, whichever one it is that has Elohim and Yahuwah instead of this. This is just the ones that I had sent on KJV, I think, or something similar. But anyhow, let's just think about this up here just for us, and then we'll go to another one. But yeah, let's look up at 15. We'll talk about that at some point too, and we'll change that to Messiah. But verse 15, know ye not that your bodies are members of Messiah? Shall I then take the members of Messiah and make them members of a harlot? Elohim forbid. What's he talking about? He's not talking about just physical, natural adultery here. He's talking also about spiritual adultery. Because look here, it says, what know ye not? He that is joined into an harlot is one body, for two, saith he, shall be one flesh. So he's talking about the whole body of Messiah. How's the whole body? Your members, plural, is of Messiah, because there's another place in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 where he talks about the body being many members, but yet it's one, so also is Messiah. So he's definitely talking about our daily conversation and our meetings with others. And so in these modern times, it'd be like if we went in one of them big buildings that had a 300 to 500 population or a 50 population, it wouldn't matter, congregation on the books. It wouldn't matter if we went in one of those or if we listened to a TV preacher. If we're fellowshipping with those kind of spirits and thinking it's all right. Oh, I just want to hear a good message. I've heard people say that. I've heard people that believe completely different than these people. Well, he does use the word and it's a good message and I just like it. And I'm saying, don't y'all realize that's spiritual adultery, spiritual fornication. And so that's what I was getting at with all that. So, and that's when he said, now he's talking singular. Before he had it more of a, do you not know that your bodies, plural, are members, plural, of Messiah? Now down here in then it says, yeah, verse 16, or do you not know? Yeah, that's like Carol said, they're going to commune with some spirit. People's going to commune with some spirit. That's why people like television and radio and music and all these things. We've got to have something going on in our brains all the time. If we don't have enough stuff in us to meditate on of truth, or it's kind of like them radios that's in cars. Sometimes you can put one on search, or you can just put one on scan, and it'll just keep scanning. It'll just pick up a little bit on this station, a little bit on that station, and then when it finally gets something that comes in clear, it'll just listen to it. And just sit there and listen to that. And it may not be what you necessarily like, but that radio is going to tune in, and that's how people's spirits are. They get bored, and they're going to find something to do. That's why gaming is such a big deal. So, verse 16 again, or do you not know that he who is joined to a whore is one body? For he says, the two shall become one flesh. And he who is joined to the master is one spirit. So if we join to him, to Yahuwah himself, then that's one spirit. So it says flee whoring. Okay. Every sin that let's see, every sin that a man does is outside the body. But he who commits whoring or fornication or adultery sins against his own body also. Or do you not know that your body is the dwelling place of the set apart spirit, who is in you, which you have from Elohim, and you are not your own, for we are bought with a price. Therefore esteem Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which are of Elohim. And that's why, the idioms in let's say that it was a natural group of people. If we were all meeting in somebody's house and we're having meetings where we're discussing the word and learning, when it was saying if your eye offended, if you pluck it out, and if your hand offended, if you cut it off, better to enter into the kingdom lame and halt than it is to and blind than it is to not enter in at all. And so in the idioms, in their normal vernacular, that would just mean cut it out. Stop doing it. It doesn't mean cut your hand off and pluck your eye out. It just means stop doing it. But now in a higher level of like a parable and symbolic of the body, in other words, if there's somebody that just keeps committing fornication, whether it's in the physical or if they just keep associating with these other groups of people, I think it'll answer in one of them scriptures that we have. I think we got it in our thing. We're going to pull up on stream. It says, what fellowship have the temple of Elohim with the temple of darkness? So let's see if we can find that one. And it doesn't have to be the next one. Just keep pulling these up and we'll run across it. Hello. Are you there?
Yeah. I
Okay.
was looking up the verse.
Okay. Yeah, to say which. Yeah, the temple of God with the temple of it might say Baal or Belial or something like that, or Satan or something.
Well, it pulled up 2 Corinthians 6:14.
I think I might have sent it to you. It's in one of them Corinthian scriptures I sent to you. I think.
Well, the other one I have is Ephesians.
Okay. Then I didn't send it.
Okay, unless is it in John? Maybe I don't know if you sent me that.
Oh, here it is. 2 Corinthians 6:16. It says, what agreement had the temple of Elohim with idols? And I think it says more than that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, start at 2 Corinthians 6 and 14 through 18. 2 Corinthians 6:14 through 18. You got it there? Okay, I see it. All right, go ahead and read those for us, bro.
Okay. Do not become unevenly yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness? And what fellowship has light with darkness? And what agreement has Messiah with Belial? That's Baal, right?
Yeah.
Belial.
Hmm.
Or what part does a believer have with an unbeliever? And what union has the dwelling place of Elohim with idols? For you are a dwelling place of the living Elohim. As Elohim has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says Yahuwah, and do not touch what is unclean, and I shall receive you. And I shall be a father to you, and you shall be sons and daughters to me, says Yahuwah the Almighty.
There you go. Talking about we are Messiah. In other words, together we make up the body. We are the temple. In other words, each individual, he's saying your body is the temple of the spirit, the set apart spirit of the Ruach Kodesh, and together we make up um, a larger body, the body of Messiah. He's the head, we're the body. All right, what you got next? Yeah.
Ephesians 2.
Pardon me?
Ephesians 2,
Yeah, Ephesians 2,
19.
19 through 22. Yeah, go ahead and read those.
Uh, Ephesians 2:19. So then you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the set apart ones and members of the household of Elohim, having been built up upon the foundation of the emissaries and prophets, Yahushua Messiah himself being chief cornerstone, in whom all the building, being joined together, grows into a set apart dwelling place in Yahuwah, in whom you also are being built together into a dwelling of Elohim in the Spirit.
There you go. We've talked about that before, and that's how we become, the part of the temple. We're no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints. Now, what does that mean? That we used to be, we were foreigners, we were strangers. We was not set apart. We was not members. We thought we were told we were by the guy in the pulpit. When we walked through the door and walked down the aisle and made some kind of confession, we were told that, man, you're saved, you're part of it now. But we wasn't. So now Paul is talking to some people and saying, now you are. As a matter of fact, these were the Ephesians. Paul came to them in Acts chapter 19 and said, have you received the Ruach Kodesh, the set apart spirit, since you believed? And they didn't even know that there was such a thing. And so Paul talked to them. And so now this is a long time after that. And Paul is saying, so now, now you're no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints. And he called them disciples to start with before he baptized them and they received the set apart spirit. He called them disciples. He said, signing certain disciples there, he started asking them questions. They'd already met somebody that baptized them in John's baptism. They had heard old Apollos preach, and they had a lot of good things. People, Aquila and Priscilla had a lot of good things to say about Apollos. And Luke, writing Acts, he had a lot of good things to say about Apollos, but they still didn't know who he was. They wasn't members. They were still strangers and foreigners, even though they'd heard the message and had believed. They didn't receive the seal as soon as they was believed. And later on, he writes to these guys saying, you received the Spirit after you believed. Okay. Carol said something a while ago and I missed it. I don't know how to get to my messages that good. What? Let's see if I can.
Carol said, yep, they're going to commune with some spirit, Western movies, housewife shows, something, or gaming. Or gaming.
Yep.
And then that was earlier. And then Anthony said, gave the definition of an emissary, a person sent by one government or political leader to another to take messages or to take part in discussions.
Yeah, I guess here he calls himself an emissary when he says apostle or something. I don't know why that popped up, but anyhow. All right, what's your next one? I think we all get this. It's just that we're just, like I said, we're just going through it. So when we get other people on here, we'll have all this and then those pictures.
Okay. I have John 10, but I'm not sure if that's what you sent me or if I just had that open.
No, I don't think that's from this one. That might be about all I sent you.
Sure.
I had some more Corinthian things, but we maybe have already went through them. It just says it a few times, know you not that you're the temple, you are the temple. You're not your own, you're bought with a price.
Yeah, that's what I have for verses.
Mhm. All right, we'll pop those pictures up there. Let's go to another one first. Yeah, I like that one though. But let's start the ones before that. Yeah, right there. Plain and simple. And there's one that's just like that one on the top left. There's one that's just by itself like that. But I just wanted to go through those because that's what it would look like from an aerial view. Top left is the aerial view. Below it is just a side view. Walk up beside the thing and it looks like that, just a building. There's one in the front and one in the back, I believe is what those are there. And it had some kind of tall structures on each side of it. Now go to the next one that looks just like the top left one, just an aerial view. There you go. If y'all can, blow that up a little bit, if you can widen it out on your personal device or whatever too. That's what it would look like. Sort of take the roof off of it and look down from an aerial view. You had steps that come in the front from right to left, just like reading Hebrew. You go from right to left and read it. You had steps in the front. You had a brazen altar. And now this is before you hit those first set of steps, that's called the outer court. Okay. And then you come up the steps toward the brazen altar. There's never any ceiling there. That's open air always. That's called the inner court. And then you start going into the building. When you see Jachin and Boaz there where it says court, you're leaving the court and going into what is called the porch of judgment. Okay, that's the porch, and those columns hold up the porch. And then you walk through the doors, and you walk down that center. Those candlesticks and showbread, that's kind of like these days they have chairs or pews on each side of the aisle in the big church building. But this was the veil back in. There wasn't a lot of people in there. There was priests that performed duties inside this. This is called the holy place when you first step in, where the tables of showbread, the candlesticks, and you walk on up until you get to the altar of incense. And then after the altar of incense, that's where everybody stayed at. The priests who performed their duties and all that, they stayed there throughout the year. On one day of the year, on the Day of Atonement, Aaron would enter in through that veil. There was a veil there separating the holy place from the Holy of Holies. Aaron would go through that veil, and he would go up there to the ark, and on top of that ark was a mercy seat. It would lift off. It was made of one piece, but it would lift off that ark, and it had, they didn't lift it off very often, I don't reckon, but that's where they had the scrolls or the tables of stone that the commandments were written on. And so the mercy seat that sat on top of it had the cherubims that were made of gold, and their wings touched each other. Those two ovals on either side of it is where the really tall cherubims would be. They was made of olive tree, 10 cubits tall, and each of them had a 10-foot wingspan. Their wings touched each other, and the other wings touched the walls, making it 20 cubits wide. Holy of Holies, ark. And even the curtains that they call the veil, those had cherubims embroidered into them. Even on the old tabernacle, we'll have to do a picture of it one of these days too. But each of these represents something. And if you'll look on the outside out there, where it has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all that on each side of the Holy of Holies and down the holy place, that's the priest chambers. That was the priest chambers, and those things that says lavers and basins, that's where they would wash before they would go in and perform service to minister to Yahuwah, and lighting of the candles and the placing of the showbread and all such as that. So there's priest chambers. Now then, let's go to the next one. And while y'all go in there, give me just a minute. I got just a minute. I gotta go out here. Oh, be right back. Okay, yeah. Y'all still hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
we hear you.
That bottom picture of the man laying there, that is like if, I know it says Jesus and all that on there. You can probably find that up there somewhere else without my scribbling all over it. But anyhow, that's back when we were still into the Jesus thing. We've had this for a long time. But that would be Jacob. When he laid down, he placed a stone for his pillow, And then the next morning when he woke up, he took that stone and he set it up for a pillar. And I've always wondered about that, because a small stone that you lay your head on, how is that going to make a pillar? That's just not my or normal ideal of a pillar, right? Maybe when I looked it up, I didn't understand it. It might have something in the definition. It's been a while since I looked it up. But anyhow, if you'll see that temple, that's what they're showing is, remember those lavers that we said where they washed at? If you'll look up there, those walls that come down, there's Joachim and Boaz. If you stretch them out, those things that hold the porch up on that top pillar, so Joachim and Boaz. And then as they stretch out, it would make like the legs of a man. You'll see where the ark sets up there. That'd be like the steps they go up. That'd be like his mouthpiece sitting up there. So it's showing a little bit of how the temple can look like a man. And then it's got the brazen sea, and yeah, those lavers, that would be like 5 fingers coming off of his hand, because the priest sails, that's his arm down here. We are like his arm moving when he moves, because we're the body. So he's got body and fingers and all that, and the 5 fingers on each hand, that represents like what they call the fivefold ministry: apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. 5 of them. And that 5 is the number for grace, because you're saved by grace. But how do you get grace? Through faith. How's your faith activated? Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word. How will they preach? How will they hear without a preacher? And how will they preach unless they're sent? In other words, it's all about the preaching. And that's what those lavers actually, you start out with washing when you come in, and you end up as part of the of his hand. In other words, I've heard people describe it. It's not like we're the hand of the Most High, but it's like a glove over the hand. He's spirit, and we're flesh, and he gets on us and uses us however he wants to. Uses us for his glory, for his esteem. So go to the next picture. And remember those lights, those windows, they go up in like 3 ranks on that one side, light against light in 3 ranks. That'll be something we'll go through at some point. We're always mentioning. There you go. So there's the altar of sacrifice. Joachim and Boaz. Joachim means he will stand, Boaz in his fleetness. That ties in with Jeremiah, where it says, "What seest thou, Jeremiah? See the rod of an almond. Thou hast well seen," he said, "I will hasten my word to perform it." What does that mean? That's something we'll have to kind of get into too. Joachim and Boaz, porch of judgment, having your loins girt about with truth. Joachim and Boaz, those pillars were made of brass. And that was brass is walking in judgment. And that's your Revelation chapter 1, where when he heard a voice, turned to see the voice was like a trumpet. He seen the candlesticks, but he seen one in the midst of the candlesticks like unto the Son of Man. Now it said his feet was like burnished brass. Why? Because he's seeing that this temple is really supposed to be us, a man. And it describes what we're supposed to be doing as well. So there's your priest sails. They look like arms. Your 5 levers. They would make out like fingers. And there you go. And those staves that stick out of the ark, they would pierce the veil. They wouldn't pierce the veil, excuse me. They would kind of poke out, and you could tell that they were poking out. And they even thought that resembled the nostrils of the Almighty. They knew it had these things in it, but apparently back then they couldn't put it together. And who could? I mean, if somebody wouldn't have showed me this drawing, I don't think I'd ever done it. I would have probably never sat down and drawn up the dimensions, because what they've done is they took the dimensions of this thing and started playing with it and said, what would this do if I was an architect, and how would this look? So they just took verses out of the Old Testament, and then you know how they are. They're not all right together. So you take a little here and a little there, and you start, forming this thing and trying to draw it up, and this is what happens. This is what happens.
Oh, wow.
And that turban up there at the top, it says priest cells, but the other one I sent you, I think it said actually the treasury. I think the treasury may be up there. Yeah, treasure rooms, and priest cells are both up there. So your treasury is just a little above the head. It represents like in heaven. And that's where it says, store up your treasures in heaven, where moth and rust does not corrupt and thieves do not break in and steal. But don't steal up your treasures on earth where all those things happen. Store them up in heaven. In other words, it's not just knowing these things or reading scripture or knowing, it's the works that these things produce. Do these things that we're reading and discussing, does it produce works in our lives? Because it says that the others may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So that he needs to get all the esteem for anything that we're seen doing. And if we present it the right way without saying, it's because I'm so cool or I'm so smart and all this kind of stuff. If we say, no, look what it's the word, I didn't write the word and it ain't my spirit. He's the Ruach Kodesh. I'm not. So what do we have to boast about? Somebody taught me how to bathe myself, tie my shoes, how to eat, taught me my ABCs. I didn't learn anything. Paul says, what do you have to boast about? What do you have that you have not received from somewhere else? So that's the same with the word and the spirit and all that. We didn't write the word. It ain't our spirit, it's his. He'll freely give us these things, but we don't get any esteem for it. He does. No honor, no glory, no esteem to us. It's all to him. And that's why he says he will be esteemed in us. Okay?
Mhm.
Oh, now, you can go this one or go back to yours that's kind of colored now. Go to the prettier one. Now, remember in there, in Revelation chapter 1, it says his legs were like burnished brass and all that. It says his head and his hairs were white as wool and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Well, how can that be when it's supposed to be two cherubs standing on each side? Why do they look like flame of fire there? Because we see in Revelation that the two witnesses are the two candlesticks and the two olive trees. So what he's saying is those two witnesses are there. That's what the candlesticks represent, is the called out assembly. So if we're up there and he says, I will speak to you from the midst of the cherubim. So the olive tree are also the candlestick. That's why when they finally get the revelation that not only are there cherubs there, the cherubs are the candlesticks. Okay. And that's the eyes of flaming fire, the eyes of your understanding, like a flaming fire, realizing who we are, who the assembly is.
Andy, why is the compass look the way it does?
The compass,
Yeah, the temple's east to west, and you go in from the east. Why does it have what look like three men on each side of each direction?
that's oxen. There was a brazen sea and it had 12 bulls under it, or 12 oxen underneath it. Go back to that one that showed the temple laying down, Merv. It was sitting right there in front of the porch, so if the legs are spread out, it was like that. Some say that, like in a physical sense, it could have represented, for the male, it would have represented like the testicles, the gonads. And the little ox horns are made out of like their hair. They're just hardened hair. So it's almost like testicles with horns, with hair, pubic hair. It represented the sea, the seed, those who overcome the beast, says will stand on the sea of glass playing the harps. Now, Also, it could represent like female. This thing, so they say, they believe, the Hebrews do, that it had like male and female. It alluded to both. It's what it talks like. But we know that together, just like there's neither male nor female in Messiah. So just like male and female starts out as babes, male and female have their young time. Male and female are both in the bride. Male and female come out of the bride and out of Babylon into a man-child. And at some point, they both can speak. At some point, they're not supposed to speak, because in a spiritual sense, we're all in the bride. I suffer not a woman to teach or usurp authority over a man. I believe that's in the natural. And you look in the old days back then, not very many people were educated. And if anybody was, it normally wasn't a woman. So we were told. I'm not, we know history is all rewritten and all that stuff. But that was kind of a rule, and it was getting better as I was a child. My grandmother went to school as well as my grandfather. But it's just kind of a symbolic or a metaphor for when we get into the spiritual sense, men and women alike, as we're learning, as we're still novice and learning, we're not supposed to try to rule over everybody, or try to, lead everything with a whole bunch of, I got this and I got this kind of thing. I got that. But those who are experienced, it doesn't matter what their age. Somebody's 30 or somebody's 90. If somebody has experience in the scriptures and made some mistakes and all that stuff, then talk. Now, I want everybody to talk. I want everybody to question and things like that. But that's just kind of a spiritual sense. The man, the baby, the young man, the old man, the wife, the ladies that they call it. John writes one time to Our Lady. He writes and he titles it to Our Lady. He's just talking to the assembly. Some people think he's really writing to some woman. I mean, they don't see the spiritual symbology of it. But this is a man. What we want to do is grow up into him, into one new man.
Can you go to the next picture, Murph?
Do you want me to go back to one we've already seen?
Yeah, the one you were just at before this one. The one where I was pointing out at the compass there. All right.
This one or the... Okay.
Use your imagination, you guys, all right? So if those are ox horns,
Mm-hmm.
if you extended the horns out, you know what that would look like, Andy?
Extending the horns out? No, what would that look like?
Look at the message board that you were just at.
Go ahead and tell us, bro. What is it?
It's the Zia symbol.
The what now?
The Zia symbol, like the flag of New Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the reason I'm pointing that out, and while I was asking what that is or what that represents, is what's interesting about the Zia symbol is across the whole state, pretty much all the Native Americans, even though there are literally 540 different tribes in New Mexico, almost all of them are in agreement that symbol, that Zia symbol, that's our state flag, is not supposed to actually be drawn. You're not supposed to show it visually. And I think they get that symbol from that ox thing, the thing you're talking about and described. I think that's where it comes from.
And the state has turned it into like a sun god worship, like a big old
Exactly.
yellow rays coming out of it.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm just trying to look up higher quality resolution versions of these images. And like one of them came up, it was like a Masonic website. I know they use that Boaz and how do you pronounce it?
Jachin and Boaz.
Joaquin and Boaz. I know they use that. And then I was looking up Temple Man, and diagrams for Burning Man were showing up.
Hmm.
You know, the hippie festival.
Yeah. Well, you know, the numbers on this, there's 12 oxen and the sea of brass, the sea of glass. It's a polished sea. It was probably made out of metal, maybe brass. I think it says in there. But anyhow, in Revelation it says a sea of glass. But it's sitting on the backs of these oxen. The oxen, there's 12 of them. Ox is the first letter, the aleph. So it's also the one. They're holding up like a one, a message of one. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah Elohim is one, Echad. But it's also, there's 12 of them. It's the aleph, the ox, which is an aleph, which is one, but it's 12. 12 represents the perfect government of Elohim. So there's 12 of them. It's the Lamed, the 12th number. So everything that goes with the 12 will be there. Well, then they got 24 horns. There's no letter for 24, so it'd have to be the 20 and the 4. 20 is redemption, 4 is creation, redeeming his creation. It boils down to like the 12 tribes of Yisrael and the 12 apostles. It just goes on and on, everything you got there. And it always went to the east. In other words, as the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So there's an eastern gate where that temple used to sit, and it is sealed up. You can tell there used to be a gate there, but they blocked it up because the prophecy was that he's going to come from the east and enter into that Temple Mount area. And so they sealed it up to make sure he couldn't. And if you stand on the Mount of Olives and look, you got the big Kidron Valley in between you and that gate. And it's right there. You can see it, just almost like you can reach out and touch it. It's just right there. But it's a mile away if you walk down that valley and back up. So this temple set toward the east, and faced the Mount of Olives. That his Jachin and Boaz, his pelvis would have set toward that. You'd have had to come from the Mount of Olives, across the Creek Kidron Valley, through the eastern gate, up onto the Temple Mount, which would have all been considered outer court, and then walked into the inner court, through the gates and up the stairs to the inner court, and then walk in, and make your sacrifice on the altar of burnt offerings, and then walk through the legs of the porch of judgment. On either side would be Jachin and Boaz, and then you walk in through the temple. And have to, I think that sea of brass there, the bronze bulls and the sea of bronze and 12 bulls, I think you would actually have to kind of like walk around it. I believe it's set right on that porch, just like it was something to do with the sex organs. If I'm not mistaken, it actually set on the porch, like it was covered by the top of the porch and set in between the two legs. That wild stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Cool.
And now, those at first that which is natural, then that which is spiritual, that's how it happened at first. But now, it's going to happen by the words that come out of our mouth. We seek him, and he gives us words, and we speak. The seed is the word, the field is the world, and the sower is the Son of Man. That's what it says. First that which is natural, then that which is spiritual. This is what where Jacob dreamed at Bethel. You found a new one of those guys. Good, good. Keep that one and get rid of that one I had there. Well, we can look it over and make sure there ain't some kind of little scribble note that's important, but I don't think anything on it's all that good. I had a lot of stuff on there. There you go. It says turban up on that because they say it was like the priest mitre. And I think that might even be how King James translates it out, like a mitre. And that's like the Catholic priest and popes wear those mitres. It looks like Dagon, the fish god. But actually in those days they had a turban. So it would have been shaped more like a turban like the Middle Easterners wear.
Hmm.
That's it.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
Now then go to, and I think we got into this the other day, so we ain't got to stay on it very long, but we found a better picture of the menorah, the 7 lampstands with the word up above it instead of my scribbles. If you read that from right to left, go ahead and blow it up a little bit. Right to left, in the English, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the Hebrew, remember that word reshit, and as we're starting to learn some of this Hebrew, the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet, first one being Aleph, the second one being the bet. That word reshit means like first or beginning. But the B, if they put that bet on the front, it makes it in the beginning, in the beginning. So Barashit, Barashit, Bara, Alahim, and then Aleph Tav, or Et, they would call it Et. They say 8 or something like that, but I think it's more like At or Et. Hashamayim, Shamayim is heaven. You put that Ha on there, the Hey, put the letter Hey on it, and it makes it the word the. Hashamayim. And then it's actually Ua, that Va'et, the Vav, or the Ua, Aleph Tav again. So it's got Aleph Tav in it twice. They just hide it. It doesn't translate into English. And then Ha-Aretz. The Aretz means earth, and the Ha means the. So you have Barashit, Bara, Alahim, Et, Hashemayim, Uet, Ha-Aretz. Now, pull up that Ephesians, that one we had from, is it Ephesians? Yeah, Ephesians 3 or 4, whatever. I think it's chapter 3. Ephesians 3 something. Or did we have that in this one? We need
we
it.
had okay.
Where it says yeah. Down. Oh, right there. Whoa. Let me look. Stop. Yeah, back on up to like 6 or 7 or something there, 6, 5, 6, something. All right. Okay, go to verse 10. Start reading at 10 and read till 11, 10 through 11. No, is that right? Yeah, just 10 and 11 start with.
Okay. You said 10 through 11?
I think so, but there's another one. This ain't the one. Hang on. Let me scroll on down a little bit. I may have to pull out my scriptures and see what it is. No, I don't think this is it. Hang on. Go ahead and read 10 and 11 while I'm looking for this, and we'll see. It may be the next chapter or something. I'm just not sure.
Okay. Ephesians 3:10. To the intent that now unto the principalities and powers in heavenly places might be known by the church and manifold wisdom of Elohim, according to the eternal purpose which he purposed, the Messiah Yahusha, our Yahuwah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna start at 9. And to make all men see, we know that see means what? It means to understand. Don't you see what I'm saying, right? What is the fellowship with the which from the beginning, what beginning? Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, right? The beginning of the world hath been hid in Elohim, who created all things by Yahusha Messiah, to the intent. Here's his intent and purpose right here. That now unto the principalities and powers in heavenly places might be known by the assembly. So he's showing this to the principalities and powers in heavenly places so that they're going to know it how? By the assembly, the manifold wisdom of Elohim, according to his eternal power, or his eternal purpose, excuse me, which he purposed in Mashiach Yahusha, or Master, or Adonai. So now, if you go back and look at the candlestick, I know we went over this last time when we were going over the candlestick, but it just ties in with the temple. We're the temple, we're the candlestick, we're the cherubim, we're the olive tree. We are the witnesses. And so that 7 golden candlesticks is the 7 first words, and that's where he has had this hidden. If it says he's hidden in God, what is God? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. He hid it in Elohim. How? Elohim is the Word. It was hidden in the first sentence. Every time you see a 7, it represents not only perfection and wholeness, it represents that candlestick, which represents us, the called out assembly. He started it off. He didn't start the first sentence in all of his scripture, the most glorified or esteemed word there ever was, ever. Looks like he'd have started it out with a letter that represents him, the Aleph, the one. He done it with the two witnesses, the bet. Why? It means in the beginning. The bet, meaning he's going to do it by us. The bet represents us because it's the two witnesses. It's the 2nd and 3rd chapters of the book of Revelation. And it is also that 7 candlesticks. It's the whole first sentence. That's the light. That's the light that's going to shine into the dark places. He started out that, he created the candlestick, but then he said it was darkness. Darkness was up on the face of the deep. He has hidden it in his word since the very beginning, and the very first words that was ever put out. He started out with the bet, which represents us, the 7 words, which represents us, because that represents the fullness, completeness, the wholeness. In other words, it was all finished when he started. He spoke that first thing. As far as he's concerned, it's all finished. He knew what was going to happen, and it's all finished all at the same time. Y'all see that, or am I making any sense?
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. It's some deep stuff. It's like a supercomputer. Like the scriptures are like a supercomputer.
That's
It's
what they are.
crazy.
Absolutely, it's a computer program. All of us together, we're like the supercomputer, with him being the energy that's inside the supercomputer that makes it function. And those words, that's the program.
Yes, like the code or whatever.
But everything's in the first verse. It's amazing. Now, as you start looking at the numbers and start,
And Carol had mentioned Ephesians 1:10 here.
Ephesians 1:10.
Right.
I thought that was where he was going. You know, the whole purpose is to bring us all back together into one, because we are the 12 oxen. We are the suffering servant. We are the two witnesses. We are the many membered body. We are the one. We are. It's us. It's all us. Everywhere you look, it's gonna be you. It's me, you, us, and we.
Yeah, and that's good. And we'll look at some of that predestination sometime. That's Ephesians chapter 1, starting at verse 10, that in the dispensation of the fullness of times, he might gather together in one all things in Messiah, both which are in heaven and which are in earth, even in him, in whom also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestinated unto the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will, that we should be to the praise and of his esteem, who first trusted in Messiah, in whom ye also trusted, after that you had heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after that you believed, were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise. Now these are those guys that after they believed, they didn't have it yet when he first met them, but now they do. 14, which is the earnest of our inheritance until the redemption of the purchased possession, unto the praise of his esteem. Wherefore I also, after I have heard of your faith in Yahushua and loved all the saints, cease not to give thanks for you, making mention of you always in prayer. Here it goes. Now, this is what I was trying to get to down here, verse 17. That Elohim of our Adonai Yahushua Messiah, the Father of glory, may give unto you the spirit of wisdom and revelation. That's probably the same word, the 602 apocalypsis or apocalypto, and the knowledge of him, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened. You know, we're always saying the eyes really means understanding. It means understanding. It ties in. And it does. Can't you see what I'm talking about? It means understanding. And the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of your calling and the riches of his esteem of his inheritance of the saints. Well, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. I just wanted to get those things lined out in a few scriptures so that when we talk to everybody else, we're kind of on the same page and looking at the temple and tying it in with the lampstand. In other words, just getting everybody to know what they are and why we need to. Oh, I know. Find the one where it's profitable.
Isn't that 2 Timothy 3:16, or is it 1 Timothy 3:16? It's one of them 3:16s, ain't it?
Second Timothy, you're right. I think it is 2 Timothy 3:16. Let me turn there.
Second Timothy 3:16.
Yeah, see what that said. Yeah, that's it. Read it in one of your other translations and see what it says.
It says in the Besorah, all scripture is breathed by Elohim and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for setting straight, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of Elohim might be fitted, equipped for every good work.
Okay. Fit and equipped, that's good enough. But in the KJV, it says for all scripture is given by inspiration of Elohim and is profitable for doctrine and for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of Elohim might be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. I like that word furnishings because what they used to call the candlesticks tables of showbread, altar of incense, everything that was in there was referred to as the furniture of the temple. So these words is what furnishes us. If we're the temple, that's what we got to fill it up with, is the furniture, the tables of showbread. What's it mean? In other words, it takes all the scriptures. It takes from Genesis to Revelation pretty much to describe what is the candlesticks, the oil that's in the candlesticks, the showbread, the ingredients of the showbread, the building of even the tables that the showbread sits on, the building of the tabernacle. In other words, it's all about the tabernacle. The whole Torah at first, from half of Exodus on, is talking about the tabernacle, which ends up being a temple in First Kings. They turn it into the temple, which is just a larger thing. Oh, and at some point we need to get a picture of the tabernacle from the wilderness, the tabernacle in the wilderness, because some compare it more to like a child in swaddling clothes. There's just one candlestick. It's all covered with all those skins, and
It's embryonic.
huh?
It's like an embryo.
Yeah, like more. Yeah, I guess it would be. I was thinking more of an infancy, but it is more like an embryo, anywhere from being an embryonic stage to a child with like one eye cracked open. In other words, it's only got one candlestick. So that's why, and it was dedicated, the tabernacle, which, you're thinking of Feast of Tabernacles, but the actual tabernacle in the wilderness was dedicated in the season of Pentecost. And the temple was dedicated much later on when Solomon built it, hundreds of years later. The temple was dedicated in the season of Tabernacles. Tabernacles dedicated in Pentecost, or Feast of Weeks, at the end of the Feast of Weeks. And the temple was dedicated in the feast season of Tabernacles. And that's because the temple is a full grown and it's in the 7th month. So the 7 represents wholeness, maturity, that we are growing up into him, into the fullness of the stature of the measure of Yahushua HaMashiach. So remember all that and take notes and do something. Put scriptures there. Put scriptures there or something.
I don't know if we could ever prove it, but they say on the 49th day that the embryo gets a blast of DMT, and it's a fetus at that point. On the 50th day, it becomes a fetus. And so, that could correlate to on the 49th day, on the 50th day, when the day of Pentecost was fully come in the New Testament, is when they got the Holy Ghost.
Yep. I believe all those things tie in. It's just that sometimes as people get off and run with just one thing and they don't see it's all there is a natural, there is a spiritual, and there's a lot of things in between. I believe that things do happen up there in the stars because he told Moses to make this thing after the pattern which he saw on the mountain. And that was basically a heaven coming to earth kind of thing. Bow down the heavens, O Yahuwah, it says. And
Abraham was from the Ur of the Chaldean, and those people were star people, right? I mean, Abraham was of the people who studied the stars.
That's it. They had the magicians and the astrologers and all that, and that's what Chaldeans actually meant, was those who look at the stars, the astrologers. And
go ahead. Murph, I shared some in the chat. I don't know if you could pull it up on your stream or whatever, but when you guys were talking about this, it reminded me about that Rob Skiba guy.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Skiba was breaking down this tabernacle that you guys are referring to, and he was showing it like how Carol had described it, but also I was watching this video of his where he was expressing his opinion that it was also a representation of the flat earth with the firmament. And then not too long after that, he got killed by the COVID or whatever. But this is like the first time I really questioned flat earth and really started believing in flat earth was when I watched that Rob Skiba video where he's breaking down this tabernacle. And that's interesting about the thought of like an embryo and this being like the place that life is born in kind of thing, if you want to take it to that level.
Yeah, I like Rob Skiba. I'll have to check that out.
He got kicked out of all the Christian stuff because he didn't believe that the windows opened and all the water came out, and that's how the flood came about, and then space was created and we could go into outer space. But a lot of the Christians that'll go with the flat earth to a certain degree, that's when he actually got kicked out of all the Christian stuff, because there's two sects in that flat earth realm believing the windows of heaven opened up, the water came down, and some of them believe it stayed dry, and that's how they go into outer space.
That's what I was told when I first asked him. I mean, I started, once I found that we could look up definitions, I just thought that was cool. And so I got right there at verse 1 and 2. And time I got the second day, I'm running across this word called firmament. And I read the definition. So I went and asked the preacher, hey, this says it's beaten out like metal. It's beaten. It's a hard surface. That's why they call it firmament. And it was Russell. Carol Russell said, oh, well, yeah, at one time it was. That they think it was like a big thing of ice or something, like glass or ice. And that's when it busted up and that all fell down. And that's when we had the flood. And now it ain't there no more.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was a lot younger or whatever. And I just said, oh, okay. And I heard other people say it after that. But I still, every time I run across it, I'd look at that and I'd look up at the sky. It's really tough when you don't have the right things to read and nobody to talk to.
Those same Christians will say, well, we know that God created us, but if there was a big bang, God lit the match.
Yeah.
It's like you got half truth, you got half in and half out. You're halfway going this way and you're halfway going that way. But when you finally look into it, you find out not to be all in. However deep it goes, you're going to have to just keep going.
Yeah.
That's the version I got too. And then when this was probably about almost 10 years ago now, I told my mom, I was like, hey, I've been watching these videos and the way they're breaking down scripture, I'm pretty flat. And she just thought I was a nut. She was like, dude, you're crazy. I was just like, all right, I'll keep this to myself, I guess.
Yeah, I went back and forth for like a year. I was like, well, maybe this, maybe not that. I don't know. I didn't know about any of the scripture stuff when I found out about it.
I had I was struggling there for like a year or two there too, because I was telling Andy one of the last times we talked, I started seeing that some of these Freemasons were coming out in public and saying that it was flat. And so I was I thought maybe it was just some type of division, propaganda, program going on to just get people to argue. So that's why I tried not to put too much stock into it right away, because I was maybe I think this is just to try to throw people off God or whatever at that time, and because I was all JC'd out still, and I was just no, I think they're just, if the Freemasons are saying it's flat, then I think they're just trying to get people to fight with each other about this. But I was confused because I was like, all these astronauts that have supposedly landed on the moon were all like 33 degree Freemasons. So I was just like, I don't know what to believe with that. Kind of a trip.
Right.
Well, wait till you start telling them that the two witnesses are really the candlesticks, and the candlesticks are really the called out assemblies, what they call the church, and that Enoch and Elijah, it's not them. And by the way, you're the temple, and you are the cherubim. And
Yeah, this stuff is in my. I mean, won't mind trying to tell people this stuff when I get the chance, but this stuff is like, I feel like the stuff that's just like too. It's like if they don't have the eyes to see or ears to hear, they're just gonna not get it at all. They're gonna be like, no, dude, you're just like running away with some imagination stuff or something.
So when you get this in you and it starts coming out of you and that anointing hits, they're gonna light up. It's gonna crank their tractor. It's gonna light their little candle. They're gonna light up. They're not gonna understand what you're saying. They're gonna, I don't know what he's saying, but whatever it is, I want more of that. That's what's gonna happen.
mm-hmm. To
Yeah, I
me,
should
it
hope
really
so,
helps.
because they ran me off with just bringing the name up just a couple times.
What's to me, what seems like it helps is get people familiar with the scriptures. If somebody has never read them at all, or now if somebody's familiar with them, you can kind of run through this. But not that many people are that familiar with the Book of Revelation unless they've already been trying to, decipher this stuff a little bit. Somebody either has to know about it or you have to show them. Turn to Revelation 11. Turn to Revelation chapter 1. Now look at these things. It says right here, this is that. This is this, and kind of walk them through it. And then once they see a little bit, then you can start rolling with it. But that's why I like to pull it up on the screen, because these other people that get on here with us, they can either read it off the screen or they can have their own scriptures at home to read or something. But sometimes it helps. It really helps to see.
Once you read it yourself, you can't really deny it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And it says, so he told me, the angel told me, the mystery of the seven candlesticks. These are the churches, assemblies. Yeah. And there's a lot more of that kind of stuff in here. This is this and this is that. And then after we get this layer, I believe he's going to show us other layers. In other words, it'll keep building up as one layer is built. Remember, it's light against light in 3 ranks. I believe it's like 3 levels at least of understanding. There's a natural, spiritual, and a celestial.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be like pessimistic or negative, but the last time I brought any of this stuff up to anybody, like in my family, for example, my mom was just like, "Oh, that's not the King James version," and I'm not listening to anything like that. She
Well,
just
read
like
it to
cut me off right away. Oh, I can't even get a sentence in, man.
Read it to them on King James. Because trying to bring somebody all this stuff and then trying to say nobody ever called him JC, trying to bring all that in. So, I mean, I preached JC for over 25 years, or at least over 20 years, and in King James only and all that. So I'm not mad at them, man. I have compassion on them because I was one of them. And so, like that guy, the way that guy writes and Come Out Here My People, C.J. Coster, he writes very humbly. In other words, he knows he was one of them. He ain't, tonight I realized the earth is flat. Tomorrow I'm going to call everybody a globetard, I mean, that's crazy. So I'm not going to bash the name. Look, even if the name is wrong, which I believe it is, because nobody could have called him that, but let's just say we're missing some kind of lenient because it got translated from this. Let's just say that. One thing is I don't like it because of everything that it represents out there. That name JC, all the Christian denominations call him that. The Catholic strong order, the army of the Catholics, the Jesuits, that's what it means, Society of Jesus. And nobody ever called him that. So if it's okay for them to call him that, it ought to be okay for us to call him Yahusha. All right, and it ought to be okay. But I don't bash him, and here's another reason. Because I don't say anything bad about it, because it says in, I think it's Jude, that when Michael, the archangel, was disputing with Satan about the body of Moses, he does not hurl railing accusation against him, but says, Yahuwah rebuke you. He didn't call him you lying SOB or nothing. He didn't call Satan all kinds of names or curse him or nothing. He just said, Yahuwah rebuke you. And that's Satan. We know that's a bad one. So I think it's very possible that the JC thing is a very bad thing. I really do. There's no doubt about it. I think a lot of the things people are posting is very possibly true. I mean, the very negative stuff. But if we come at them like that, I mean, we're like taking their candy stick away, buddy. You don't take a baby's candy stick away and then try to sweet talk him into something. You let him lick on his candy stick for a while and then start explaining stuff to him, reason with him. You know what I mean?
Right. That makes me feel better too about, if they can change the name. Because I was like, oh, it felt like blasphemous, like some of the stuff I was like sharing. But I was like, no, they're the ones like erring.
That's the way they're going to take it. It's almost like if Anton LaVey come at them preaching Satan and telling them how horrible that name was that they believed in, because they believe it, brother. I believed it so strong. I mean, I would battle you about that name. And I mean, strong. And so nobody would have won me coming at me like some people come at people out there. If they really want to make disciples for Yahuwah, not for ourselves, but making disciples for Yahuwah, then we've got to bring them in gradually. Tell them something about the witnesses, And I even got to be careful about the pre-trib rapture thing, and bring them about here and there, show them some stuff. So let's just say that there is a pre-trib rapture. What about this? And start showing them what right here it says the candlesticks are the witnesses, and the candlesticks are the church. But wait a minute, that's all the way over here in Revelation chapter 11. I guess the rapture ain't happened yet in chapter 11. So we need to read 1 through 10 and 11 anyhow, and just keep showing them these things. And then finally show them the verses. It takes a while to build up to there ain't no rapture. That video you had was really good because I used many scriptures and talked to Doreen, but I think I had already said some things that kind of built a wall up. She wasn't going to take it from me at the time. Now she talks to me just like I'm, like we're all one of the guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely takes like a level of like couth or gentleness.
Yeah.
But I wanted like respond because like I want to respond how they like respond to me sometimes.
Yeah, you can't do that. So that's the whole thing. That's the lesson that Yahushua's teaching us is let's turn the other cheek. That doesn't mean necessarily that I walk up to you and slap the fire out of you, just stick your other cheek over to me. It means if I come at you, calling you all kinds of names and telling you how stupid you are, you be kind and gentle with me with your words. That's really what that more means. Don't do tit for tat. Don't return evil for evil. That's the whole lesson. Because if we can do that and let them, you ever seen how that sometimes on these animal shows, especially like a fishing show, first thing you do when you get that fish on there is, man, that thing takes off, he bites, he wants to take off running. They say, give him some slack, son, play him a little bit. Let him wear himself down. Same thing when somebody's in a boxing ring. An experienced boxer don't get up there and just try to hit as hard as he can and just keep going. You wear yourself out. Don't give it everything you got right off the bat. Back off, dance around a little bit, let them punch a little bit, let them jab at you. Then let them get tired. Then go in and knock them out. Okay, that's what we're doing. We gotta let them talk, let them wear themselves down. If you got the hook set good, just play them. You'll keep reeling them in, just reel them in. And finally, all you gotta do is just reach out there with your net and scoop them up over the edge of the boat, because they'll be wore out. They're ready. They're ready to come in. They're ready to die. They're dying to self. They're dying to their old ideologies and theologies and all the ologies that they got, right?
Right.
Just let them. They'll wear themselves down. They'll run out of steam. If you got enough scriptures to back up where you're going all the way, and it's experience. It's knowing this fish is going to run that way. I know there's a rock ledge right underneath there. There's a brush pile over there. I see that brush sticking up out. He's going to head for that brush pile and get tangled up. You got to know how to work that brush. You got to be an experienced angler. There's certain questions they're going to say all the time. There's certain questions, just like on the flat earth. Well, what about gravity? Why don't you fall off the edge? You know, all the same questions they ask over and over. Get to where you can answer those questions, because they're coming again. Here it comes. It's going to happen again. You know, you got to be an experienced angler, an experienced fighter, experienced boxer, because it says we must earnestly contend for the faith that was once delivered unto the set apart ones, to the saints.
That happened earlier today. My brother and I were reading yesterday, and then he was watching Instagram this morning, and there was like one of those street preachers or campus kind of preacher people, and he was getting into it with like a Muslim lady, and she was asking him. So I think it was like they were arguing about whether or not people had seen Yahuwah. And my brother's like, I knew this would happen. Like, that's why I had you highlight it like yesterday. Like, it's like right in Genesis. And I think it's Hagar or something's like fetching water, and then she like sees him or something.
Yeah, there was an angel that came and showed Hagar where the fountain was. There was some water there, and she couldn't see it until the angel opened her eyes. She'd done given up. She'd laid Ishmael off at a distance so she wouldn't have to see him die. She'd done given up hope. And an angel came and opened her eyes so she could see the fountain of water. You're talking about Hagar, right? Did I take off on a tangent?
Well, I'm not sure, because I think the scripture said I think they were talking about Elohim in the verse. Maybe it was Sarah. It might have been Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah.
My brother. Dang, so I can't ask him.
Well, any questions or any more of what is this, what is that, or anything on this topic?
Oh, that was interesting.
Well, we got several scriptures put together now, so now we can bring in the other people and we can just kind of roll through it a little quicker, maybe. And I'll be rested up.
Okay.
Thank you for going through that.
Yeah, thanks.
No, absolutely. Well, I think we've all talked about it, so we may have just not went through it this thorough and with the pictures and all that stuff, but I think we had talked about it some. But that's what it means when it says, know you not that you're the temple. The whole temple was drawed so that we realize it's a man, and everything that's in there is symbology. Every unit of measure, everything about it.
I had one question about one of those drawings. It had an arrow pointed at it's called it Isaac's Rock, and it almost looked like that was what the pillow was. What was the connection there?
Isaac, that land, the place where they built the temple, now it has the dome over it, the Muslim Dome of the Rock, the Mosque of Omar, which is really where the ladies pray. They have an Alaska mosque over there too, but where the Golden Dome is, there's that big rock in there, the one that showed underneath that altar in the drawing, and that's where they say that Abraham took Isaac up on the mountain and was going to draw the knife back, and the angel came and stopped him, and they found a ram and hung up in the bushes. And he told Isaac, Isaac said, "Here is the fire, and behold the wood." But he said, "Where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Or he said, "Where is the ram for the sacrifice?" Abraham said, "Yahuwah himself will provide himself a lamb for the sacrifice." And then they found a ram in the bushes. And in the Hebrew, Isaac actually asked for a ram. In the Hebrew, Abraham actually says lamb. And then they find a ram in the bushes. And so that's what happened when Messiah come down here himself, the Father himself in the body of flesh and blood. He is the lamb. He provided himself, like grabbing his own self by the collar and going down there, It was him. It was him. He provided himself a lamb.
I guess
So,
can you pull that picture back up, Murph?
so
Yeah.
that rock is that rock was there in the days of Abraham. That's where Abraham offered Jacob's daddy. Isaac would have been Jacob's daddy on that rock that's inside the temple.
Okay, because from what I understood from what I saw in that drawing, it was pointing at the neck of Jacob. It was associating the neck of that man laying down with his head on that pillow as the staircase that goes up. I don't know if
Well,
you could put it up, Murph.
it that's what it represents, like his neck, and that way the ark would be about where his mouth would be. But that's just an artist rendition of a man laying on the ground. I don't think Jacob was a giant and that was his pillow, is what I'm saying.
Well,
That
yeah,
was
for sure. But
yeah,
what but what I'm saying is it says rock equals stone. It says Jacob's pillow stone, and then it's pointing at Isaac's rock there. You see that?
yeah. It
So
may
what
all
I'm
be like a symbolism or like a metaphor for what was already there or something. I see where you're going. Yeah, it could be.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because you were earlier, because you had brought that up with me before. You were like, "How does a pillow turn into a pillar?"
Yeah.
And but there it's associating this Isaac's rock. They're calling it there in the drawing with the pillow or the stone that his head's resting on.
And so later on, hundreds of years later, when David got there, where that temple is, Solomon, David's son, built the temple, but they still had a tabernacle. And so David was not a priest. He was not he wasn't supposed to offer something up unless it was at the tabernacle. But he knew he had to do something because he had made a mistake. He had numbered Israel without taking a tax from them. And you wasn't allowed to do that. That was just one of the rules. You can't number them unless you tax them. But he wanted to see how many people was there, probably because he wanted to see how big his army was. And so after he done that, long story of all the different offers he had 3 years of this and 3 months of this or whatever, or 3 days or something. So he chose the 3 days, the lesser one, but it was killing everybody. It was a big plague that come. And so he seen an angel with a sword drawed, and he was at the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And so he knew he had to make a sacrifice. He had to do something. He had to do it quick. So he got the threshing implements and the oxen from Ornan the Jebusite. He bought it off of him. He said, I don't want to, Ornan offered to give it to him. He said, I ain't going to make a sacrifice to Yahuwah that doesn't cost me something. So he bought the threshing instruments, bought the oxen, made a sacrifice, and fire come from heaven. He didn't have to light it. Fire come from heaven and lit it. And he said, this is none other than the house of Elohim. That's the same thing that Jacob said when he laid his head upon his stone and looked up and seen the stairway. So he used the same words. He found that place. So the place where Jacob laid his head, the place where Abraham had was going to sacrifice Isaac, Jacob's daddy, is the same place that David found by faith during a time of trouble. And by the way, that was very troubling what Abraham was going through. That was very troubling what Jacob was going through, because he was running from Esau. All these things happened, and it's the same place. That big rock right there, the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. So that's where Solomon built it. And David was anointed king of Israel at 30 years old. And there's only 3 kings that ever had all of Israel and Judah for 40 years' time. Saul was king for 40 years, bad king. David was king for 40 years, one of the best kings they ever had. Solomon was king for 40 years, and he blew it at the end. He started, his wives got him off after other gods, and he blew it at the end. But David was the one, and David was anointed at 30 years old. Ezekiel, 30 years old, in Ezekiel chapter 1, Ezekiel the priest. Messiah, being about 30, went to be baptized at John, and that's when his ministry began. 30 is the number of the man-child. 30 is the number of the king, priest, and prophet. 30 is a number. The 12, going through the alphabet the first time, the 12 is the Lamed. The 12 is the chapter in Revelation. And when you go through the 1 through 22 and you come back with 20 and 30, 40, 50 like that, the 30 lands on the 12. Revelation chapter 12, showing the 12 stars over the head of the woman in heaven clothed with the sun, moon under her feet, crown of 12 stars. That's also the 30, as she's giving birth to a man-child. And so these numbers just keep going around and coming around, and you'll see it when you got your numbers now. Run a copy of that off at Texas or somewhere, and flip it over and give me a call, and we'll write numbers down on the back of it.
That reminds me, I have like some Hebrew books. I think I could just post them in the general
Yeah.
thing. You guys want to check them out? This one, it has the letters, and it kind of like explains like what they mean, like why they're shaped like that, and what they mean.
Is it the modern Hebrew?
Here, I'll show you a bit.
Okay, I got to turn my screen on here. Yeah, I've seen them talking about that a little bit, and they probably, I just never got into it. I was always looking at his older stuff. They probably do that, and in other words, they're pretty sharp. They're pretty sharp characters. These rabbi guys. That's crazy stuff. Okay. Yeah, that's the old pictograph stuff. Oh, it's the pictograph with the modern day. Yeah. Yeah.
So these are flashcards.
Yeah, I got some similar. I've got some actual physical flashcards. When we all get together, we'll do that. We'll start doing that.
I got this one.
Yeah. My cat wants to join in.
Some of these I might have to send on Telegram. One of them.
Okay.
One of them's kind of big.
We can get on we can get on this sometime, and I can throw up some flashcards, man. If y'all get doing this, I got paleo and modern day.
Okay. I found that verse. I just wanted to run it by you.
Sure.
It's it's this one. It's Genesis, where am I at? 16, 13.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, so she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, you are God of seeing. For she said, truly here I have seen him who looks after me.
Yeah.
So did
Yeah.
she
It's
see him
the
there?
angel of Yahuwah. Yeah. It said the angel of Yahuwah, so it just threw me off. It did say that a lot of times that means it was really him himself.
Oh, I see, yeah, and the angel.
Yeah. The angel of Yahuwah. That can mean that, yeah. And truly I have seen him who looks after me. Elohim of seeing. And so because it said Elohim, angels are also called Elohim, but it said the angel of Yahuwah. And sometimes they'll say something about the angel of his presence. A lot of times I think that's probably him himself. That's just the way they refer to it. In other words,
Well,
messenger. What that?
when Joshua was there with the angel, and he said, "Whose side are you on? Are you on our side or they're on his side?" And he said, "Neither. I'm on the side of the Lord." He was an angel of the Lord, and he bowed down and worshipped him.
Yeah.
Joshua,
Well,
he worshipped
also
him.
that he said, who are you? He said, the captain of
Yeah.
Yahuwah
Of
host.
the
In other
whole-
words, I'm captain of Yahuwah's army. So who would be the captain? The
Yeah.
head. It means head, you know. That's probably him himself.
Would have to be if he worshipped him.
I would think so, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But there are times, I know people talk about that, but there may be different types of what you're calling worship, and we may have to look at those words and see if it's the same word every time. Because somebody worshiped Daniel in the book of Daniel, and he didn't stop them. And I think somebody may have worshiped King David. I don't remember, but I know they did Daniel. And it's just like Jacob bowed himself down to his brother Esau with his face to the ground. He's not really worshiping him. He's just showing reverence, like, man, you really a big deal. I hope you don't kill me. Like, you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm kind of giving educated guess and a speculation at the same time. I'm not 100% sure on all that, but I know that he did. Daniel did. Somebody worshiped Daniel in there or bowed down. I think he said worshiped him.
Oh.
But I agree with you, Carol, on that. I think that the captain of Yahuwah of host, the captain of Yah of host was, I think that means the head of his army, and I think he's the head of his own army.
Okay. Anthony found this. The Knight of Kadash is a Freemasonic degree ceremony of initiation performed by a number of supreme councils in the ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry. It's the 13th, I don't know if that's 13 or 30th degree of the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite for the U.S. The term Kodash or Kodash is derived from the Hebrew word, which means holy or consecrated. It's often abbreviated in Masonic documents as K-H. The degree attempts to teach the initiates a series of moral lessons by the use of allegory and symbolism. The lesson of the southern jurisdiction of the Knight Kadash degree is Masons should be true to ourselves, to stand for what is right, just our lives today, to believe in God, country, and ourselves.
That's the 30th degree. I just know that they just like mimic everything from scripture. So I was just wondering what 30 meant to them, the 30th degree. Like you guys were talking about 30 earlier being the important number.
30 pieces of silver too.
30 what now?
That degree of Freemasonry is the 30th degree.
Okay, I couldn't hear what Carol said.
Oh, she said in 30 pieces of silver too.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what betrayed him. Yeah.
They I guess they do something weird with Judas too, because we were talking about that last night, and then I was asking ChatGPT how he committed suicide, and it said, "Oh, he hung himself."
Mm-hmm.
And then but I said like where, I was asking it where it got that from, and then I was asking it said, "Oh, the field of blood," and they
Yeah.
said, "Oh, it's named that." It's named that because I can't remember what it said, but I said, oh, they said because of blood money. And I said, "Hey, when did the term blood money like come about?" And they were like a couple centuries ago. I'm like, well, they couldn't have named it the field of blood for blood money. And it's like, oh, thank you for correcting me.
Clayton does that sometimes, Carol. He has chats with Chat GPT. That's why they call it Chat GPT. He just sits around chats with it.
Well, that's his name.
It was called I think, I don't know if I can pronounce it right, a seldoma, which meant the field of blood, and they couldn't keep the money. Judas came back. He realized it was too late, but he realized what he had done. He had betrayed innocent blood, and so he threw the money down at him, and he left. And they said, "Well, we can't put this into the treasury or keep it or anything because it's the price of blood." So since it's the price of blood, they went and bought a field with it where they could bury like strangers or poor people or something. I don't remember exactly who they said they was going to bury there, but that's where they ended up burying him, I believe, a seldoma, and which meant the field of blood. And he left their presence and went and hanged himself. And when he did that, like his body fell or something. Somehow his guts bursted out. He fell and his guts busted out.
Yeah, like described him as bursting or something.
Yeah.
So my brother thought that he had like cut himself or something.
If
And
they
then he
hang
thought
their
that,
from high
well,
enough,
because,
their head would detach and their innards would come out. I mean, they would just decapitate themselves, right?
Yeah, I don't know how
right.
long he stayed there. In other words, he may have stayed there for a while until he was like deteriorating. I don't know. Just says he fell and his guts busted out.
Well, my brother thought they had added the hanging thing too, because he said he had like researched this a while ago, and he said that like hanging wasn't a popular method of like dying back then, and he thought that they were trying to do something with like Judas, where he's hanging on the tree, like the tree of Yahuwah or something. They're like trying to put him on the tree.
I don't know. Said he hanged himself. So I've always assumed, so I don't know for sure if it's true or not, but just in my mind, cursed is any man that hangs on a tree. I figured they nailed Yahusha like it says to the tree, but Judas probably hung himself. In other words, got a piece of rope and threw it over a limb and hung himself. I don't know. That's just what come to mind because I watched westerns when I was a kid, so I don't know if that's what it meant or not. But I don't think he nailed himself up there. Says he hanged himself. And he's the only one in there that I see doing that.
Are you still there?
Yeah, you there?
Oh, yeah. No, I was just
Okay.
looking up what it said to me. It said, he acquired a field with the reward of his wickedness, and falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his intestines gushed out.
Does it say anything about he hang himself?
I asked it, what are the differing accounts or interpretations? And it said one is the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew 27, 3 through 10. This account describes Judas's remorse, his return of 30 pieces of silver, and his subsequent suicide by hanging.
Matthew 27:5. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then it says the book of Acts, Acts 1, 16 through 20, describes his death as falling headlong and his body bursting open.
Yeah.
And then the gospel, these are extra books, I think. The Gospel of Judas and the Gospel of Barnabas.
They might give better accounts of it. I mean, more information on the account of it.
This one in Barnabas says, this apocryphal gospel not included in New Testament canon also presents a different narrative. It suggests that Judas was transformed to look like Jesus and was crucified in Jesus's place while Jesus ascended to heaven. These differing, the other one, the Gospel of Judas, this ancient text discovered in 1970s, but likely written in the 2nd century, presents a different perspective. It portrays Judas not as a traitor, but as someone who was instructed by Jesus to betray him in order to fulfill a divine plan. This text doesn't specifically detail Judas's death, but it portrays him in more of a sympathetic light compared to the canonical Gospels.
Wow. That's the Gospel of Barnabas?
The second one was the Gospel of Judas, and the first one is the Gospel of Barnabas.
Huh. Yeah, I know. I don't go for that. Okay. The thing of that word hang, in where it's in Matthew, when I look it up in some of these study books here, 5:19, to throttle, to strangle. In other words, hanged, that word they say there actually means throttle or strangle, to in order to put away, to kill. Hang himself in one's life, and that's what it says, strangle oneself. So the word that they called hanged in our English is actually a word that means strangle.
Oh, okay. I'll have to tell my brother, because he had like different thoughts about that.
Yeah. So it probably does mean to, he probably hung himself with a rope or a cord of some sort or whatever.
Ah, okay.
Because here's where it's a different word. When they use hanged, where Messiah is hanging, and one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, if thou art the Christ, save thyself and us. That word hanged there, where one of the thieves, that he was hanged between two thieves, that is to hang up, suspend, be suspended, hang, used in hanging on the cross, it says here. And that's one place, and the other one just a verb that means to hang. So when Judas hung himself, it's a whole completely different number, and it's a whole completely different word. It meant to strangle. So he went and strangled himself. If somebody said he went and strangled himself, today we would think, well, he must have hung himself, because you ain't just going to grab your throat and strangle yourself, right?
Right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It may kind of mean hanged and strangled at the same time. It's kind of like we would say he hang himself. We understand, you know, or if somebody fell off a roof and a spike stuck through them and they was left hanging there, we would understand it wasn't the same as they hanged themselves. It wasn't a strangling kind of hanging.
Okay.
Anyhow,
Thanks. Thanks for looking at that.
that's what's good about being able to look up words. At least you get a closer idea, maybe. I'm not saying that's all right or these guys know what they're talking about when they look it up, because sometimes these guys are wrong, buddy.
Okay. Well, I'll post these books to the general chat so you guys can take a look.
Okay. I'll probably look tomorrow. I'm fixing to hit the heating pad and crash out, man.
Okay.
How long we go? 11:30. That ain't too bad.
All right. You guys gonna get off?
I think I am. How about the rest of y'all? Y'all got anything else to say or
I'm already in bed.
no? I'm fixing to do the same. All the kids crashed out already?
Well, he fell asleep listening to y'all beside me.